Welcome back to another episode of Hustle Huddle. This week, we're being joined by one of our friends, Paloma, and she's joining us to talk a lot about mental health and her experience on Big Brother and kind of the catalyst to change that brought for her. I think this episode is going to be super impactful for people out there who are either going through their own struggles, they have a friend or family who they don't know how to help. I think if you guys stick around, you're going to get a lot of mental jewels from this, and then also just see kind of like what kind of lady boss she is and any tools, whether it's fitness, it's fighting your own anxiety, or just trying to level up your game. We'll see y'all out there.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Huddle. You know I'm here with my boy
Christian Roddy
and my boy Jesse. He ain't got no mic today, but it's all right. And you know I had to wear my orange sweater today because it's October. It's officially fall, bro. I'm out here ready to go. But we got a great special guest for y'all today.
Yo, this week we're bringing you a special guest, Paloma Aguilar.
Sweet. Jeez. Say what's up.
Waving. What's up, you guys? How's it going? I am here to talk about my journey on Big Brother, which was a recent experience I went through. And I'm also here, most importantly, to talk to you guys about mental health.
Just to kick it off, I would say just tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Yeah, so I am a San Diego native, born and raised here. I am currently a real estate agent, newbie here at Compass in La Jolla. So if anyone is looking for a nice property in San Diego, I'm your girl.
Go holler at her.
But nonetheless, I do a lot of things. I'd say I'm a multi-potentialite, which is like this word that I love, and I learned it in like high school. But what that means is that I'm like multifaceted. So I model. What else do? I love interior design, so I freelance that. And then I also, I picked up real estate. Maybe went on a TV show, kind of.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe went on a TV
Kinda.
show once and like lasted a week, but that's okay.
Hey, that's more than anybody else that I know. Fuck.
I don't know, but I'm someone who's very passionate about a lot of things, which is why I'm here with these two.
Yeah, no, we're super pumped to have you on. Did a little social media stalking, obviously, when we heard you were going to be joining us.
That's weird.
And but low key, like she's right. Like looking at it, I was like, what hasn't this girl done lately? So we really appreciate you joining us. Yeah. I think to kind of kick us off as an icebreaker, like not on so much of a serious note, I think Sean's got a question for you, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty of it. Oh,
I got a question. Just to break the ice so everyone gets to really know who you are, is if you could pick one thing to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh man, that's so hard. Well, I'm Greek and Mexican, so that's like super challenging because Greek food is incredible, but so is Mexican food. But if I had to go, I'd do the all Mediterranean diet.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah. So shawarma is Mediterranean, right?
Shawarma, yeah.
I mess with shawarma.
Yes.
Shawarma is Mediterranean. Kava is like one of my favorite like places. I'm pretty sure that's Mediterranean too.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's like Kava Mediterranean cuisine.
Yeah.
So then what would you pick? Yeah, you.
No, this is about Paloma. Today.
I still want to know what you would pick too.
If I could eat anything for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
I'd go Mexican. It's
Mexican
like,
food?
I mean, you could just do like Spanish rice and carne asada and like still be somewhat obviously healthy, but like cholesterol stuff. So
I get sick of Spanish rice.
yeah.
I don't care.
Let's hear it, big fella.
Me, bro, I would go sandwiches all day for sure. Just because like you can make endless combinations of sandwiches, like breakfast sandwiches. There's hot sandwiches, cold sandwiches. Bro, I'm there. I'm good for the rest of my life.
Okay, that's good to know.
All right.
Now that
Now that we broke the ice,
I think really what we want to know is how did Big Brother come about? How you got on the show, and then through your experience there, how did that put you on this path of mental health?
Yeah, so getting onto Big Brother is a super intense process. It's like 3 months of casting. A lot of that stuff I have to hush about because I did sign a like nice little document. But nonetheless, they want to make sure that you're physically not physically fit necessarily, but they want to make sure that you're well equipped to be on a show like this because you're, isolated from your family, technology, you're in a completely artificial environment. So I was casted based on the criteria that I met, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Little did I know, once experience and knowledge are two different things, right? So the experience was a whole completely different thing than the knowledge that I had going in there. So I tested correctly, just like an SAT, but when you get into college, it's completely different than, right, the test you just took.
100%.
Absolutely.
So, two different things, but yeah, that's how I got on.
Damn, that's crazy. So then,
if you don't mind me asking, so I know it was like an intense process. How did it get kind of put on your radar?
Yeah, like how did Paloma like get the chance to actually even like be in the process for Big Brother?
Yeah, I'm going to be super honest here, and I might get in trouble for this, but I was recruited for Big Brother. And I know a lot of Big Brother fans are like, oh my God, a recruit makes perfect sense. Like, I'm already hated by Big Brother fans, so what's up, guys? I'm a recruit. That's it. That's
Hey, I love that.
Spoiled your dreams,
Spoiled your dreams. No, there's no dreams here in Big Brother Nation. But okay. Anyway, I am so pessimistic. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But let's keep rolling. Yeah.
So through the recruitment process, was it just through work you had done previously on like the modeling world that kind of, I guess, then put you on their radar?
I think I have a cool Instagram. It's like very flavorful. It has like a lot of different colors, and you have a picture of me in a bikini one day, and then the next day is like me like doing like the double chin. So it's like it's good. I think it's authentic because you do like. Instagram is such a convoluted thing because, like everyone's like, oh, thirst trap, like, ego comparison, but it's all about how you handle it. Like my biggest rule with social media is 10% consumption, or 90%, 10% consumption, 90% content. So for me, 10% of the time I'm scrolling, and then 90% of the time, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but 90% of the time I'm trying to produce content, put stuff out there, really express who I am. And I think with expression on Instagram, that's like the best way you can go about it, rather than constantly comparing yourself. Because if you're constantly scrolling for like 8 hours and your screen time's up like crazy, like, are you really going to remember what like Jen posted of her ass like the day before? No.
Not really.
No, you're not.
So then, that's crazy. I didn't really think that, I guess, all that went into like producing like a reality TV show. Like I just didn't, for some reason, I thought you would just like, I thought you just like go on and like maybe just like go and interview, and then they're like, you know what, I kind of like your personality, and then they're like, oh yeah, pick you.
Oh no, it's like probably 10 steps like interview. I mean, that you talk to like executives, all sorts of people, and they want to make sure that you're like capable of not screwing up, which unfortunately I'm really sorry to those people, but I was that one in the house that imploded, but that's okay, because you know what? Everyone suffers from something regarding mental health in some capacity. This girl here just suffered a little bit more than the other people.
And that's kind of where I wanted to ask next is, obviously when we're talking about the process, it sounds like there's still some emotions there, and I think a lot of people are going to want to hear kind of where that comes from and talking about the show. I guess, what was your experience on the show that led to that?
Yeah, so if you didn't already see it, I did fall apart. Things do fall apart in the world of Big Brother sometimes. But nonetheless, what I actually incurred was a sleep deprivation psychosis. And essentially what that is your levels of dopamine are spiked in your brain. And so you naturally become high. And it's crazy because some cast members even were like, oh, like, I feel so high right now, because we were getting 2 to 4 hours of sleep and we were totally fine. And we're like, what's going on, you know? Or at least me and that other cast member at the time were like, okay, there's something going on chemically, right? But that's just where it started, okay? So day after day, I'm not sleeping, I'm thinking, I'm gaming, I'm super over analytical. So like my brain starts to like picture this chessboard. Like I like just start to move pawns and I'm like going crazy, right? Like almost hallucinating. And that is what happens when you're going through a sleep deprivation psychosis, very similar to a mania. So to say that I was manic is not even far off from the truth. And it was crazy because Twitter was blowing up and Twitter was like, this girl is manic. Like someone get her someone get her a psychiatrist and get her the fuck out of there. Like people were catching on. Like I was talking super fast, and I already talk so fast if you can't tell. So I had rapid speech, poor girl, like third person, poor girl was like suffering in there. And, it was all like due to the environment, the stimulation, the lights were on. So like I'd have to try to sleep with the lights off, and I couldn't sleep already because I was like low key manic. So it was like impossible for me to just like go to bed and turn off your brain. Cause at that point the chemicals in your brain are like, oh, boop, boop, boop. Like, let's stay up. It's like it's surviving. It's basically survival. So that's what happened. And then the ending, basically, I had a panic attack, and I went up to, I'm not supposed to talk about production, so I went to a place, and I was like, I need help, like, this is not right, my body is shaking, like, something is breaking down, like, I know I'm not a hypochondriac, and even, like, the people in the house, they all cried when I left, because it was so severe what I was going through, and they knew that something was happening to me, and they saw me physically breaking down. I was like hallucinating. I was like, this is Inception, you know? Like, I was like, you guys, like, I'm telling you right now, we're in Elon Musk's simulation. Like, that wasn't a joke. Like, every single joke that I started to have was like a cry for help. Like, I made this one joke. I don't know if it went viral or not. I can't remember, but it was like, I'm gonna just go on Kylie. I made a plan, you guys. I was like, I'm gonna take Kylie Jenner's private jet, her pink ass private jet, and I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. And so like everyone was like, this girl is like nuts, you know? But I was like so sleep deprived, so going nuts, that poor thing. Like, I just started saying all these jokes, and they were truthfully like cries for help the whole time. So yeah, my body was convulsing. And at that point I was like, you know what, like, not convulsing, but like shaking, you know? And so at that point I was like, I need help. And so the cast members were so sweet, and they were like, just go, like, go and get help. And I did, and
that's crazy.
got out of there.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge too, because to get out of that and remove yourself from the situation, a lot of people, like, those were obviously coping mechanisms, like trying to shrug it off, trying to laugh it off, and then your body like literally shaking. And you're just like, this isn't for me. I got to go.
Yeah, like, I had to go. And it was a hard decision, but it was the right decision. I wouldn't regret it at all.
Yeah, and more power to you, because a lot of people don't have that self-awareness to like realize like how like mentally like jacked up they are in the moment. So like that takes a lot out of a person.
Oh, there was like I was like freaking final destination. I was like, oh, I'm gonna die right now and have a heart attack. Like, that's how bad it was. I was like, I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. Like, I was done. I was donezo.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Sheesh.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you here with us.
Yeah, honestly, that's pretty wild. I can't even imagine being like watched for 24 hours out of the day, like nonstop, like non-privacy. Like, that alone is gonna put you through like such a like a mental like fortitude, where like you either have to like adapt or you have to overcome that. And not a lot of people can overcome that because they've never experienced that.
Right.
So like, for you to throw like 16 people into the room and be like, yo, like, adapt and overcome that, like, that's competing, that's gonna like, I feel like that's just a ball of like chaos just waiting to happen.
Oh, and it totally is. Like, if you watched all Big Brother seasons, I've watched like probably 6. I'd say it is Hunger Games in essence. It's all about like who's on your team, you know, who's gonna be the strongest, who's gonna be the smartest, who's gonna be like the wittiest. Like, there's all sorts of components. Very
like political almost in a sense.
It's literally a game of politics. And so for me, aside from not playing the game because I wasn't able to go that far in the game whatsoever, you know, for me, I came out of there, you know, really suffering from mental health. And I think that's something that I haven't yet shared with, you know, fans. I haven't shared with even some of my closest friends. They don't know what I've been going through. But I came out of there with depression and anxiety. And so what people don't understand about mental health, they call it like, oh, you know, mental health, overcome it through affirmations, overcome it through, you know, yoga. And yoga is incredible for, you know, helping yourself through mental fitness. But nonetheless, you know, it is a chemical imbalance. It is physiological, like in your brain, you know. So it's something that's hard, and it's something that I'm still suffering from, even though I am on this podcast, which is so freaking fantastic. But I just want to let people know that, you know, there's a stigma that goes around mental health, and next week is actually Mental Health Week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so lands perfectly because our podcast comes out next week.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, nonetheless, I just want to let people know that, you know, if you're suffering from depression, like, I completely get you. And I think the world needs to hear this podcast and know that, like, if you're suffering, like, it's not just go listen to an affirmation and be okay. It's a constant battle every single day that needs to be destigmatized.
100%. And I like that you mentioned that there are some tools to, you know, I don't want to say like fix it, but to live with it. But unless you understand the cause behind it, so like you've looked at your scenario and you understand there's a chemical imbalance, there's other people out there that they have to go tell their family, like, hey, this is how I feel, and people try to put a Band-Aid over it.
Right.
And they need to know, like, it could be more than that, and it very well might be. And from there, like, understanding that is the first step. It kind of sounds like, and which, you know, power to you for coming on and like also sharing that, because a lot of times, like, not even just the reality TV show fans, but people out there in the world
want to admit that
they won't admit that, or they don't kind of give you the credit that you deserve for that. So, because it's, again, that difference between sympathy and empathy, because they could feel sorry for you, like, oh, you're sad, but until they feel that, like, a lot of people, they won't have that chemical imbalance, and they won't have that empathy of like, they truly understand where you're coming from. So after coming to the realization that something was wrong, obviously you took yourself out of that environment, and what was kind of the steps afterwards and the road to, I don't want to say getting better, but understanding
getting better, like mental health.
Yeah, understanding what happened and then moving on from that.
Yeah. So the day after, I actually was taken to a psychiatrist because there was something wrong. I mean, the levels of dopamine were spiked. So truthfully, like when people look at me and are like, "Oh, she was a pussy," like I got so many DMs. Like, no, if you only knew the half of it, man. Like I was in an office the next day, like just crying my eyes out, like something's wrong with me. But I got medication, which was fantastic. Like I recommend that to anyone who's feeling some type of way. Like, go see a doctor, go see someone fast and soon, and also dealing with past trauma too. Like I had a lot of trauma that had built up, and then subconsciously that can build up to your mental health, and then you're like deteriorating. It's like domino effect, like you explained earlier. But yeah, just getting help and then working out. You guys are all about fitness. Like that was my therapy right there. Like gym, and running.
Nice. That's super good. Again, you have to get out there and like admitting that you do have like a mental like health problem is like going to take a lot out of you to begin with. And then you understanding like a lot of people like will admit like, hey, I have a problem, but won't seek help. And I think it's super important that like you actually do and like go and seek help, because you're putting yourself in a state of like vulnerability that a lot of people can't like relate to. And I think that's super awesome that you did that. So get out there and go seek help if you actually do have like struggle from like with mental problems.
And not to make it sound like an addiction or anything, but it's the road to recovery is understanding what happened, figuring out what it was. And then it's not like, oh, overnight it's just gone. Like these are things that you're going to have. You got to accept it. And then now you have to work towards it and like manage it regularly.
Yeah, exactly. Like I accept, like fully accept that I have, clinical depression, and I suffer from anxiety, like severe anxiety, which I never thought I ever would. Cause I was like, oh, anxiety, you can always talk yourself out of it. Like sometimes you really just can't, And so for me, it's accepting it, owning it, and just sitting here and like, scaring it off. Like, you know what? I'm better than you. Like it doesn't define you.
Nope, for sure.
Doesn't define you at all.
No.
That's super dope. I like that a lot.
You didn't let it stop you. You out here being a boss.
For real. Real estate and interior design. Yeah, no, don't let that shit stop. For those people that are experiencing in like depression and like and anxiety, like do you have any like go-to like coping tools that you kind of like notice that help you out?
Yes. Okay. So like we were saying, we were talking about earlier, mental fitness. I think I popped that in there, that phrase. But Selena Gomez is talking about it. Serena Williams is talking about it. It's this new phrase, and it's basically the mind and body connection helping your well-being. So ice baths. I love ice baths. Have you guys ever tried an ice bath?
I tried one, and I literally like got out immediately as soon as I got in. I literally put my foot in, and I was like, "Yep, nope, that's not for me."
No, ice baths are incredible. Like I have a past to shout out Breathe degree in Carlsbad, but this place has changed my life because I go sit and it's like 38 degrees, and you sit in this like ice bath for like 3 minutes. But at first, like your body is like, shaking, you're kind of freaking out. You're like, let me get the hell out of here. But then, you go into like a peaceful mode. You're like a little cherub in the ice bath. It's freezing cold. And, it's super good because it releases, dopamine and norepinephrine. So
nice.
Yeah. So it really spikes your dopamine, and you feel happier. It's equivalent to, I think, like 2 to 3 cups of coffee. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Life changing.
Yeah. I need some of that.
One of my buddies, Josh, he actually converted his like freezer into an ice bath. So like he goes into his garage and legit like
little ice plunge
and does the ice plunge like almost every morning. And that's where I did it at. And I was like, no, like there's no way I could do this, bro. Like he's like, yeah, you just sit in there for like 5 minutes and you're good to go. Like I did them back in high school for like football, but that was only for like inflammation and stuff like that. Not necessarily for actually like mental health and mental fortitude. I never like thought of it like that. So I might have to go revisit the ice bath.
Well, we didn't mean to cut you off, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about, so obviously you're going to have the medication, you're going to have some more long form type of protocols that you're going to do to maintain your mental health or your mental fitness. Is there any time where you realize, because like I've heard of, and I use this acronym called HALT. So that's when like I feel like I have anxiety coming on or feel like there's too much stress in my life. I refer to that, and it's like you're feeling this way because me, like I don't have diagnosed or clinically like depressed, but it's like I still have stress in my life. But it's like H is for hungry, A is for angry, L is for lonely, and then T is for tired. And it's like those 4 things are usually the thing that's going to spark up either my anxiety or like any type of my unnormal feeling. And then it's like how I start to address those. Do you have anything for yourself, or you're like, because like you said, this is really recently, so obviously you've seen clinical help, But from your day-to-day life, is there other things that you have to kind of consider every day?
Yeah. So my dad's a psychologist. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, cool. Which is cool. And then my mom's in pharmaceuticals for psychiatry, which I think I mentioned to you before the podcast. But yeah, nonetheless, my dad was like, this is going to be your trick, okay? When you're like having a panic attack, when you're like scared, whatever the situation is, you use your senses, okay? So you look at 5 things, and you have to point out 5 things and call them out. So like bush, couch, pillow, whatever, and as long as you're present, like being present with all of your senses, so then you have to figure out like, 2 things you smell. So you sniff the air and you're like, well, like, what do I smell right now? Like, do we smell anything right now?
Yeah.
I don't know, like clean area, but
air freshener.
But nonetheless, you're being present. And I think being present is a huge thing in mental health. It's like the crux and core of centering yourself is understanding like what moment you're in and not thinking about the future or the past. And your anxiety, definitely gets a hold of itself.
That's awesome.
For sure.
I've heard of something similar. It's kind of like grounding yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
I was literally going to say, like, you have to have something that's like going to ground you to reality. Because I feel like, again, I could be speaking for just my personal experience. Like when I get anxiety or like when I've had depression, like I felt like it was coming from like a place of me almost overthinking a lot of it. Yes. And like to the point where I was like getting so anxious and I was getting like, or almost so depressed to the point where I was like, why am I even like thinking about this currently? If it's not even it could potentially never happen, or it could like happen and then be so minuscule to the point where it's like, it's not affecting me on like that day-to-day level. So I guess like the thing that got me grounded the most was just like, one, fitness obviously helps like a lot, and like mental fitness. Like when I was depressed, like when I was going through depression, like I just got out of the military and I didn't have like any money and I had no job and anything, and the military wasn't paying for like any of it, and I was just going to school. And at the time I was like, yo, like what the fuck am I doing? Like I'm legit like stealing groceries from like Walmart because I have no money to like even eat. And I'm like feeling like super depressed and like to the point where it's like what's the point of living?
Right.
And I think the only thing that like kind of helped me get grounded was like talking to family and like understanding that like living in the moment with friends, like that's what kind of like kept me like going. And everyone's grounded and everyone's thing is like completely different. Like yours is ice bath and it's probably a lot more.
Yeah.
But like I feel like what the people don't understand is that when you find that thing like that keeps you grounded, that you need to keep doing it and just not push it aside. So I think for my question for you is like, when you found like the mental fitness, like when did you realize like that's what helped you out?
Yeah, so it was a compilation of things. Like I watched Selena Gomez talk in like I think a video. It was like one with the president and then another one where she talks about having bipolar depression. And bipolar depression, my dad actually told me this, but that's the most severe type of depression you can possibly have. And so, she goes through those ups and downs, but she says the biggest thing the mental fitness encompasses is that mind-body connection. And the only way you can do that and execute that is being present, like you were saying. And, yoga, deep breathing, like breathwork classes are great too as well, because, you're just centered and focused on your breathing that entire time. But it's all about, centering yourself, grounding yourself. And I think that's mental fitness is the essence of being present. It's like the completion of that.
Yeah, that's super cool. So is there anything else that like helps you out with anxiety and depression?
I think music is great. Yeah. Doing yoga, flow, running, anything to really get that natural like runner's high. I like chasing that obviously because I'm not going to go to drugs at all. Like, when you're depressed and all of that, like for me, people say like medicinal marijuana like can help your depression. But truthfully, like my dad's told me, as a psychiatrist psychologist, he's told me that's just a temporary fix. And so we can't seek those things. We have to, find them on our own. So I think running. I
guess so. Now that you're out of Big Brother and now that you're back into like reality, what is like the next step for like your own like mental growth and like your own growth as a person? Yeah,
that's a great loaded question. I thought briefly the other day about trying to become a yoga instructor, just like for a side hustle, like a little yogi, like pop into classes every here and there. But what else? I mean, I really am devoted to my career right now, learning everything and anything about real estate. Modeling, it's crazy because when you're super depressed, like I think a lot of people will find this interesting, modeling is not on the forefront of things right now. Like I had a photo shoot that I canceled the other day just because I wasn't feeling myself. Yeah. And like that's the biggest thing with like mental illness and like mental depression and anxiety is like those feelings are so real, and like it's okay not to be okay all the time, you know. Like I get this out of your mind that like the girl you see on Instagram is picture perfect and you have to be like her, because the biggest thing in life right now is, you know, knowing yourself and being unapologetically you, and social media doesn't allow you to do that most of the time.
Yeah. You're only seeing what people are letting you see.
Yeah.
Like, social media is like such a double-edged sword, because it could be like something that can take you down, or it could be uplifting as well. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah. And more power to you, again, for acknowledging where you're at. Like, people sometimes don't have the self-awareness when they're in the moment, like that they are feeling this certain type of way about themselves, or they won't let themselves feel it because, again, society is like, oh, brush it off, like keep walking.
Yeah, you're good.
But to acknowledge that is huge. And I think more people do need to know that's okay and to focus on you, because you're the thing that matters most in this world.
At the end of the day, yeah.
But to kind of tie in more on like a positive aspect from that experience, what's kind of, I guess, changed for your life for the better since then?
Yeah, so I've actually connected with a lot of people who reached out to me that were like, I've been going through depression, I've been going through anxiety. So to be able to talk to like fans and people that are like, you know, I'm going through the exact same thing as you are, is super awesome. Like, you know, in the midst of all sorts of hate, you know, there's always, the thing is the brain is so triggered off of negativity, you know, like they say for like, you know, one negative thing, you have to read like 100 positive comments just to like, you know, reaccount for what's going on. But for me to really focus on the positive is like the biggest thing that I've taken out of this. And I've been running more, I've been working out more, I've been out surfing, which is super fun. But nonetheless, I think it's so important to just like know your limits, like know your limits with your screen time. Like if you have screen time that's like absolutely insane, like fix that shit right now, or you're gonna have a spiral, because like no one belongs on like, you know, social media unless you are like, I don't know, like
an influencer, I guess, and that's like your life.
And but you're a creator. That's the difference.
Exactly.
You're creating content. You're not like looking at people's feeds like 24/7, like their reels. Like, I mean, that's cool for inspiration, but do you need to be on the inspiration page for like 8 hours?
No. You're going down the rabbit hole at that point. Just spiral effect.
So, moderation. Everything in moderation.
That's super cool. So then, again, more of the lighthearted conversation. So for real estate, what type of real estate do you want to get into? Is it more of commercial, more residential? Where were you thinking?
Yeah, so it's residential right now.
Nice.
I love like, you know, flipping properties. I mean, it's very hard. We live in California right now. So the market is absolutely insane. Interest rates, you know, we're at 7% last week. So, you know, people are like, oh, who's going to buy a house in this market? You know, it's a stressful experience, but I'm like, throw a curveball at me and I'll still hit it, right?
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made you want to get into like real estate?
Yeah. Gosh, so many things. Like my love for interior design was one of them. And then this is an interesting story, but my first job was actually for a home remodeling firm. A shout out to my old boss, who was so inspiring. Like, he was amazing if he's watching this. But he taught me a lot of like sales and psychological sales stuff, you know, so he was awesome, but I sucked at that job. Like, I was going into people's houses like, oh, here, like, do you want the travertine, whatever, bathroom? And people were like, get out of my face. You know?
No, I don't want
and
that.
And then like, it was the most impossible job ever, because with sales, like I was not door knocking, because we got leads. So you got like 3 leads a day. But you'd go to that person's house and you'd have to measure everything. So they were like, what is a little girl who's like 21 years old measuring my entire bathroom? Like, what the hell? And then you have to sketch everything, and you're like, okay, do you want like a bench seat right here? Or do you want like what type of like, you know, faucet do you want? You know, we have Moen. Like, I had to know all the brands of like, you know, faucets and random stuff, right? But I was hustling my little ass off. And then like when you got like a project that was like $30,000, you're stoked. You're like, okay, sold in that day. That's like amazing, right? You freaking did all 4 bathrooms in that person's house, even better, you know?
Yeah.
But that was my first job, which was insane. Like, it was the impossible.
That's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So is that what got you into interior design, or did you like know prior to that that's what you wanted to do?
So that's definitely what got me into interior design.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, why don't I just freelance interior design? Because I'm like designing all these little like projects. I might as well just go full force interior design. And then I was like, okay, well, if I could sell like a project in a house, then I can sell an entire house.
Yeah.
So let's cut to the chase and like make it happen.
Yeah,
you know?
super cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think the experience of working in a sales job initially, from even a psychological standpoint, is great for learning about yourself. Yeah. Anybody that like I hire in the sales aspect,
sure.
like I tell them, like, be ready to learn a lot about yourself. Like, sure, there's a bunch of psychology about sales, but even your own self, like, I love hiring athletes, specifically from like baseball, because even the greatest baseball hitters in the world, like they say 300 is their average, but that's 30%. They're still missing the ball 70% of the time. And you have to be okay with that. You still have to go up with the same confidence to swing that bat next time.
Yeah.
And that was probably a lot of what you learned in sales. You're like, cool. All right, let me sell something bigger. Oh, bet. Let me sell houses now. Those are tough conversations to have sometimes.
Yeah. Obviously in the industry that we're in, and like we have to deal with sales, and knowing sales is such a like a mental thing as well, because like you have to constantly know how to deal with rejection. Like you literally have to deal with rejection every time, and a lot of people can't deal with rejection. So that's why I was like very surprised that you went from like an interior designing into real estate, because even with like dealing with like a small rejection of like, do you want this table or not? Like a lot of people can't handle that. Like, oh, like they already said no, then they probably don't realize, like they probably think all my ideas are shit. Like, and then now you're down a spiral of like rejection. So like, that's super cool that you like overcame such a small like step, and then now it's on to a bigger step.
Tying everything back to mental health. When you do something you love, like it's not even a job, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like whether it's like sales and being with people, like sales is some of the most fulfilling job in careers, like pharmaceutical sales, whatever type of sales you are in. Like you can transcend when you're like helping people and like changing their lives. And I think that's one of the most fulfilling like careers.
Absolutely. Have you heard of The Golden Circle by Simon Sinek?
No.
So
someone recommended that.
Oh, so it's great. So the ideology behind it is great leaders, great companies, just really great people. What they do is they start from the inner circle, which is their why. The second ring is their how, and then the third ring is their what. So they start from the inner why, and then they reverse engineer from there. So like Apple, they want to create great products for great people and drive innovation. They don't think about, well, what I'm selling, like my computer needs to be the best so that it sells the most. How are we going to do that? Is by creating computers that can help people innovate. And then why do we do that? It's because to make money. Like that's not Microsoft, but for example, that's Microsoft, whereas Apple starts from the inner. We want to create more innovative and passionate people. And it's kind of like when you work that way from the inner in to the out rather than the what to the how, you're a lot more successful, and you're driven by passion, and you're able to help more people usually that way. So it sounds like that's what you're kind of been doing, is you've been from that inner circle going outbound. So
yeah,
that's the way to live your life, in my suggestion.
Hey, and that's actually super dope. So then, I guess to tie into like the sales aspect of things, how do you deal with like rejection and all that through sales? Because obviously you don't just get a bunch of yeses all the time.
Oh no. Like my first job, I think it was like 16 no's. And I was like, okay, well, this is a no for the job. You know? Like, I gotta go. I gotta pack my shit up and leave, because this is like humiliating. But then, I ended up being like number 16 out of like 250 people in the company when I left.
Damn.
And so I was like, damn, what turned around? And I think it's just like failing forward, like Tony Robbins says. I love that quote. And just like learning to be confident. And if you're there for the person, like you're there for, to help a family like create a new bathroom that they like hated before, and you're so passionate about it, like passion speaks volumes. And even if they say no, like that's okay, maybe they'll call you back, but nonetheless, like I think just leaving an impact on people's lives is so important, like through sales. But your question was, how do you take rejection?
Yeah. And
I guess my answer to that would just be with a grain of salt, right? Like it's so cliche, but only way you can fail forward and just learn from your failures. Because really, I don't even believe like failure is a negative thing. I think it's positive.
Yeah. You're learning through that experience. Yeah. I learn more in my sales experience from my no's ever than the yeses. Like if you just tell me yes right off the bat, I didn't get any better
at all.
If you tell me no, I could dissect that, break it down. Like,
what did I do wrong? And
Michael Jordan says like he was only so great because he failed. Yeah. Like he would have never strived for that greatness if he wasn't cut by like his high school basketball team.
Yeah. And what I think was like so great out of what you said is that you passionately like just helping people. And that's what a lot of people don't realize in sales is like, that's what's going to set you apart from like your competition essentially, is like people buy from who they like and trust. Right. And if you're not building the rapport and you're not getting to know who you're actually like in front of, like no one's going to really realistically like want to buy anything from you, because you're just coming off as that car salesman and you're just like, yo, I'm here for the money.
Outside of that, I've got 2 other questions before we get on to our next segment. You got anything else, Sean?
Realistically, a lot of my questions were about like Big Brother and like the show. I guess my Big Brother question was like, what was like the day in the life of like the first 8 days in Big Brother? Like, what were you supposed to do? Like, just hanging out or what?
Day in the life of the first 8 days of Big Brother that I survived, because I didn't survive long. But nonetheless, there's 100 cameras that are constantly eating you alive, or at least they ate me alive. I don't know about the rest of the people. But yeah, you're in this Toontown motel. That was like the theme of this season. And there's so many colors. So, the colors are meant to throw you off. Everything is psychologically meant to throw your brain for a loop. There was lots of talking, just getting to know each other. It's so funny because if you watch my season back, people actually cried when I left because they knew I was suffering from mental health issues. And the thing is, I had someone in Guitar Center who was like a fan. He's like, "You're Paloma from Big Brother." And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Was that whole crying bit real? Because like, that just was so ridiculous." And I was like, you know what? Like, it was actually real because for 5 days, these people are all you have, right?
Yeah.
And 16 days, or not 16 days, 13 days prior, I'm just going to fully disclose this because why not? You're in isolation in, a place. I'm not going to tell, but it's not solitary confinement or anything like that. They bring you like food, but you are absolutely alone, and they do this for COVID purposes. They do this for, I don't know, maybe purposes that you can handle the game. But nonetheless, like, you are already playing the game before you enter the house. And that's the thing.
That's crazy.
That was, at least for me, a very hard thing to go through, and it took a mental toll on me. But people can say I'm a pussy, whatever, but nonetheless, like, unless you experience it, like, it was so sweet because even people like on set, the people that worked there, they were like, "Hey, like, that's why I'm not in there. Like, that's why I'm not in there right now, is because I can't do what you're doing right now." And so that made me feel better. And I think it's just courageous to even like come up here and like sit here on a podcast and say like, "Hey, I couldn't succeed and I couldn't do it. There were people who could, but at the end of the day, like, I'm here to stand up for mental health, not even just for a show, because I'm not here to even, the show was great and it was a great experience. Did I suffer through it? Yes. But do I still make it a positive? Yeah. So yeah, I told myself I'd come on here and talk 5 minutes about the show, but it's interesting. It's fascinating. Like, psychologically, what the show entails is something that's so much bigger than what an audience can see. And it's only through experience.
So that's I guess why I asked the question is because, like, again, we only see it from one side of you. It's like, we don't understand like what's going on behind camera or what's going on the other like 24 hours of the day or 23 hours of the day. We only watch the hour show.
No. Yeah. That is incorrect. Yeah. We have 24-hour live feeds.
Oh, wow.
So people can log in.
That's crazy. People can log in and watch you?
Oh, okay. So this is the thing.
So for people who don't watch Big Brother, break it down a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so essentially what the 24-hour live feeds are, 24-hour live feeds. That's another controversial issue with me. I said that you don't see everything on the 24-hour live feeds because it's 2 cameras, or it's like 4 cameras, but they're like cut in different rooms, and there's 100 cameras in the house. People are walking around everywhere. Do you see absolutely everything? No. Do they want to like pitch it to you like, you're going to see absolutely everything in Big Brother when it goes down in this house? Like, that's how they pitch it. They're like, you're going to see the people naked, possibly.
See them
like, you're going to see people having sex, which
that's
potentially, like, literally, like, people having sex did happen. So like, you're going to see some stuff.
Yeah.
But behind that, I'm sure there's probably like, so we're NBA fans.
Yeah.
Like, they have tons of cameras at the NBA games, but there is somebody back in the media room who's like, all right, cut to camera 2 because I want to catch the dunk. Cut to camera 3 for the pass. Don't be on camera 7, 8, and 9 because nothing's happening. Like, that's happening in their like kind of back room, right?
That is, dude. That's right there. That is the essence of the 24-hour live feeds. It's like an NBA game.
No way.
The 24-hour live feeds are like an NBA game. I would like to repeat that. It is
live and direct, bro.
So accurate in the sense that you don't see everything. You don't see all the conversation. I mean, you see mostly everything, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real. Like, I went back in the live feeds when I was basically like manic when I was in the house, and I was looking at some of the shit I said, and I was like, wow, like, I was crazy.
Who said that?
Like, I was literally saying, oh my gosh, I was like, oh, we're in a simulation, like Elon Musk's simulation. Like, his simulation theory is so real.
I didn't mean to laugh at that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And I was dead ass serious. Like, that's the scariest part. And I was like, you guys, this is Inception right now. I was like, we are on like level like 12. Like we need to bump down. I was like, we need to start bumping down. No, you can laugh because it's funny when you're like so sleep deprived. Like
you say some out of pocket
shit. And so I was this one girl who's I'll even talk about it right now. You know, the winner of the show, right? And I was like calling her like a bitch and all this stuff because like there was a couple things that she said to me like we're not gonna get into things. But nonetheless, like she's not a bad person at all. Like we got to know each other. But I was saying some like fucked up shit. I was like, oh, like fuck this girl. Like no one likes her. and like she won the show. You know what I mean?
That's like, crazy.
But you were in an agitated state.
Of course.
But my state of mind was not right. You know.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
fully disclose like and fully apologize for the things that I've said because like I mean when you're a girl like and your hormones are off and you're 2 hours of sleep and like anything will trigger you. I mean at least for me. But like live through humility, you know, that's like my biggest thing. And like, did I humiliate myself on the show? Perhaps, probably.
Yeah. And that's what's crazy. And I think, so me coming from like my military background, it's like, we actually trained for like stuff like that. We trained for like being up for like 48 hours or being up for like a week or like not like getting enough sleep, but just enough to get you by. And like, that's for the military. Like that's for like war and like for combat and like setting yourself up to like protect the person that's next to you. You're doing this for like legitimate like live TV. Like that's crazy on like my side, like to like mentally like soak that all in. I'm like, what the fuck? Like that's crazy.
Yeah, so. No, I mean it was intense. It was like, adrenaline rush, like riveting, people were so sweet in the beginning and then I didn't get to the part where people are conniving and you start to hate each other.
Yeah, I was about to say you probably start to fucking
thank God,
hate each other. Like I can't even imagine being around you for 3 months straight, bro. I'd probably knock you the fuck out. I'd be so angry.
And that's with like normal sleep.
And that's my homie. Like that's my homie. Like I couldn't even imagine that.
Yeah, no. I mean, the thing is past Big Brother seasons were very like, like the knives were out, like there was racism, there was like all sorts of stuff, and they really wanted to stay away from like that, and like being conniving. So the past season was like everyone was angelic, literally, like until the very end, like no ruffled feathers. It seemed that's TV, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So it seemed. But this season, I mean, I was the only one that ruffled feathers, and actually,
they're like, get her out of there.
Maybe no, there was one other person, but the thing is, like, we all make mistakes, man. Yeah. Like, and when you're put on 24-hour watch, like you can't even make one mistake.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's back to that halo effect again. Like
the halo effect.
We're all human. We're all gonna make mistakes, and I think as much as you're here to kind of talk to everybody else about their mental health, and like we want to echo that, at the same time, like you're not the only one who's gone on reality TV shows and probably felt a similar type of way.
For sure.
With my ex, she used to watch, like, I joked about it earlier, but, like, Love Island, I'm like, why are these people so crazy? Like, why would you say that to somebody? Like, walk away. Like
exactly. And then I didn't think of that until, right now.
If I lived in that, I'd probably be the exact same way.
I'd be heated, bro. I probably would be the worst person to be around.
So
they'd be like, yo, get away from him.
So I think I could speak for a lot of people. It's just, like, thanks for the humility and also sharing it, because a lot of people do need to hear that. But at the same time, like, it's not normal, but it's like very normal, like what you felt and what you went through. So
no, it's for sure.
And
normal. I feel like you're not normal if you don't feel like that.
You're like you probably are a little like psycho
you're a little
if
crazy
if you're not
affected by that, for sure.
And I think everyone was affected in the house, like in some capacity. I mean, whether you're coming out of it or you're going into it, like it's not meant to be like real life, and so thus like you're not going to be completely okay.
Yeah,
I think that's safe to say.
That's crazy.
So I guess kind of before we go into the next segment, I guess there's 3 questions. What piece of advice, if like you had one piece, over the last kind of 6 months of your life, as it's probably been, would you give to maybe a younger self of you, or even someone else? Like if all you had was this one piece of advice, what would it be? I like to say, like, if it was a younger you, but you can think of it in a way, if you want to, of just some stranger on the street who might be going through something similar.
Yeah, I would definitely, to a younger self, slow down. Like, I want everything now, and that's like the worst trait to have, I think, sometimes, because instant gratification like won't get you as far as like, the journey,
Yeah.
And so for me, I think it's to slow down, be intentional, be present. You can have goals and think about your future, but your future is not like the crux of everything in life. It's like being present is like one of the most beautiful things, and
100%.
and dealing like with any like past trauma is important too. I think that's the second
Like
one.
acknowledging it.
Acknowledging past trauma is important.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for the listeners, so I'm going to say this on every episode, but being present in the moment is so huge rather than always worried about what's around the corner.
Yeah.
Because probably Paloma a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, would be excited if they could see your life right now. If there was an area of opportunity that you thought you can grow in the most right now, whether it be personal or professional, like first thing that comes to mind, what would that be?
Yeah, I think it would be, obviously the slowing down part was a huge thing. I'm like, go, go, go all the time. I think it would also be expanding like friends, like I'm doing now. I'm meeting new friends and meeting you guys and just being like, I'm already social, so I don't know like if that's the right answer, but yeah, just like I want to, like, this is a season of like making new friends and like expanding myself and listening to people. I feel like having a podcast is great because you have different people that you're meeting, like me, you know, like we would have never met if it wasn't for your podcast.
100%.
So I think just networking in unique ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of talking about what you want to keep growing in or opportunity, what are you most proud of?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think I'm most proud of like persevering through like this season of my life because it's been the hardest, I'd say. But being able to get on a podcast and being like chronically depressed with taking medication every single morning and like feeling like shit. And, you know, 2 weeks ago, like I'll just be super honest, I was suicidal, which is scary as hell. But to be able to have the courage to stand up and, you know, talk about it for the people who can't, you know, talk about it or don't have the strength, I think I'm proud of myself for that.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely something to be proud of.
Absolutely. Like life is hard. First off, we all need to acknowledge that. And then second, I think so like this is us making, you know, a new official like friendship with you, Paloma, but I think me and Sean have both worked in the gym industries in our area. And I think we've seen you kind of come and go in passing. And one thing I would say is like about depression and like, you know, suicidal thoughts, like you never know who has it. Like, because from an outside perspective, like I would have said, yo, Paloma, like again, your social media, like looks great. Like you coming in the gym, she's always nice. She's saying hi to everybody. Like that's a certain image. It's like, you never know who's going through something. Check in on your friends.
At all.
That'd be for sure a message.
Yeah.
100%.
That's like one of the things that I learned from like the military. Like I lost like several friends to suicide. And it's like one of those things where it's like reaching your hand out and like just offering like to talk to someone goes so long, like so far and so long for someone that you just don't understand. And I think that everyone that you know that you haven't talked to recently and you know that it's probably like going through something like or not, maybe not even going through something, you should just reach out and just actually like lend a hand or like extend the hand just to have that conversation, just because you never know like what that conversation will do for someone. So
100%.
but yeah, anything else that you would like to end it up with before we wrap it up and get into our 5-minute fitness tip?
I just want to say to anyone who watched the show and is a supporter, thank you so much. And I want to let people know that, you know, you're not alone going through mental health. There's always, you know, really awesome support systems. There's Better Health, which is really awesome. Yeah, I mean, you can reach out to me. We're all going through it. Deal with your past trauma and live your best life.
That's a fact. Live your life to the fullest, baby.
Yeah. So since we are on the Hustle Huddle, we got to give them that 5-minute fitness tip.
5-minute fitness tip.
Since we're being joined by Paloma, if you wouldn't mind giving them maybe your 5-minute fitness tip on, obviously
fitness
is a piece of our health, whether it be mental health, financial health. For this segment, we just kind of focus on if you had a 30-second elevator pitch or 5-minute elevator pitch, what would your fitness tip be to kind of help people along their way?
Okay, 5-minute fitness tip. Here we go. So I would say, since I'm here for mental health, we're going to talk about mental fitness and what that encompasses, because that's just like literally perfect.
Yeah.
But that is connecting your mind, body, and soul, and basically making sure your well-being is always Gucci. And so, oh my God, I can't believe I just said
I fuck with it. It's
like,
Gucci. Make sure it's Gucci.
Yeah, make sure it's Gucci. But, you know, it means, you know, doing yoga, doing breath work, going to mother freaking bed, man. That is like the biggest, I mean, fitness is, I mean, oh, well, whoa, I was just going to say fitness is done in your bed. And I'm like, wait a second. Like, wait a second.
Cardio.
Oh, wait a second. I mean, it can be. It can be. But, oh my, that's my fitness tip, actually. No, so anyway, you guys, get your rest and then get your ass up and go do some cardio, especially if you are someone like me who suffers from depression. Getting that little runner's high in the morning is something that totally elevates your mood. Getting your ass in the ocean, I think that is so therapeutic. Like going for a swim or even a surf, or like even just like whatever you like to do, dilly-dallying in the water, like just get your ass in there and just like go have fun.
Get your ass moving.
I fuck with it.
I fuck with it.
That's super dope. A lot of people, I feel like, don't realize how important it is to initially start off and like do something like productive in the morning. And I think having a run or like going into the water and like knocking something out is just gonna elevate your like production levels throughout the day. So I fuck with the fitness mindset tip.
I love it. But that's it for the Hustle Huddle. Thank you, Paloma, for joining us.
Again.
Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, or actually I don't really use TikTok, but I mean it's the same handle at Paloma Aguilar, which is my middle name. Awesome.
Boom. And you know where you can fucking find us at. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music,
TikTok.
God damn it, we damn near everywhere globally. And don't forget, hustle is the only controllable pillar of success. God damn it.